Suddenly, your world changes. You're in a place you never imagined. You don't feel like yourself anymore. You feel alone, but you're not. Other people with spinal cord injuries know exactly what you're going through because they've been there themselves. They're the voices of experience, and they can help you get through this. If you're a man with a new spinal cord injury, you're probably wondering what sex and dating will be like now that a lot of physical things have changed. Here's what some other men have discovered.
So I went through a stage where I didn't want to date. I was just, screw women, no pun intended, not literally, but just forget about that. I'm just gonna focus on this. I'm gonna be, because I can do that. I'm not even worried about that. But goddamn, women are so beautiful, and they keep coming back in your life. And then you start accepting things. And you find other ways to make things fun.
I dated when I was in high school. Let's put it this way. I think having a positive attitude is rule number one. And I think, by having a positive attitude, accepting my disability, I dated a lot in high school, frequently in high school. I guess maybe I didn't have a problem meeting girls because I always had a place for them to sit right here next to me.
I was challenged to date again and found out that people still like you even if you're in a wheelchair. So it was the eye-opening thing that, yeah, I can have a normal date life as well. So that's been a good adventure, I have to say.
I've had a couple of girlfriends since then. It's different for sure. It's because a lot of girls, like I said, aren't sure how to start the conversation, or should I say hi? Should I flirt with this guy? I'm not sure, He's cute, but he's in a chair. I don't know what to do, It's kind of like that. And like I said, you just have to start the conversation. And if you let them know it's okay, then it'll be okay.
Don't have a problem dating girls. I guess, you just have to, weed out the people that can't see past the wheelchair. Because there's always the girl that's like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, I can't date you.
When I was in rehab, there was a gentleman working as a counselor at Shepherd Center named Wayne Ware, and he gave a class about intimacy and sexuality so that you could accept that this was kind of a new beginning, and that the first time we ever had sex as young adults, or maybe even teenagers, that we probably weren't any good at it, and there was a steep learning curve there, and that we were going to need to kind of start in that same position, back to the beginning of that steep learning curve, and that we needed to allow ourselves the grace to not be as good at it as we were before our injuries. And so that was really good for me.
A lot of it's just kind of trial and error. I was engaged at the time. It didn't quite work out then, but I knew, eventually I'd find somebody that could realize the person that I was inside, and that was no different than I was before. And I think trial and error was the best way to try and learn.
Well, as far as sex, like I say, I was a very sexually active person, and when I first woke up with the injury, the only thing I was worried about why this catheter is in me and I can't feel it. To be honest with you, being in a wheelchair just teach you something else. It's like, for one, the feelings that you get when you see somebody that you're attracted to is not physical, it's mental, because I still feel the same way. If I see somebody that I like, I still get the same urges. I just learned my way around and found out you don't need to be pouncing on somebody for somebody to be feeling good. So
it's tough to kind of try to be intimate and learn at the same time because you want to be slick and cool. I was worried about what my wife might think and not being able to perform, especially as a guy. That's your number one thing. There's nothing worse than feeling like your partner's disappointed. But you know, like, whereas my wife, you know, I mean, she wanted to make sure that I was happy just as much as she wanted to make sure that, or I wanted to make sure she was happy. But definitely at first, you know, I mean, you're like, how does this all work, you know, and you're trying to figure out how to get satisfaction, and it just comes in a different way, and it's one of those things that just takes time.
The education of it was the most important aspect. And when I say the education of it, it wasn't so much, all right, we're going to educate you about sex. We're going to educate you about what's happening to your body.
A lot of people after spinal cord injury say that they have a wonderful sex life. They do say that it's different than before, but the vast majority say it's wonderful. For men, in the spinal cord, there's two areas that control sexual function. T11 to L2 for men controls what we call psychogenic erections. Erections where the stimulus is in the brain. Seeing somebody naked, looking at a magazine, dreaming, where the stimulus starts in the brain. The S2 to S4 center is a reflexic center. So reflex erections are erections that are stimulated by rubbing the inside of the thigh, masturbating, playing with the pubic hair, catheterization, anything that's external. People who have higher injuries have more reflex erections, less psychogenic. Now, people who have low injuries, that T11 to L2 center is still connected to the brain, so they get psychogenic erections. So for men after spinal cord injury, most men after spinal cord injury get some kind of an erection, whether it's psychogenic, whether it's reflexogenic. One of the things I always counsel people to is experiment and have fun. A lot of partners say to me, oh, it's kind of like having sex for the first time, we get to re-experiment, and very definitely it can be like that. I always encourage people to use what they liked before, though. Right now, there are about 5 options available to help with erectile dysfunction. First, easiest, what you see on the TV the most is the oral medications, the oral stimulants. The good news is those oral medications work in about 80% of men with spinal cord injury, which is wonderful, very, very high. The second option is the vacuum pump. Clear plastic tube, 14 inches long, and it's purely mechanical, non-invasive, not medications, doesn't interact with anything. Third option is injections. It goes into the side of the penis, and it works very, very well. It works essentially in everyone, up to the right dose. The fourth option is the same medicine as the injections, but it's a urethral suppository. The fifth option are penile implants. They're a surgical intervention that urologists generally do, where a mechanical device is surgically implanted into the penis, and it is a penile prosthesis. But my personal preference is to see if anything else works and use the penile prosthesis as absolute last resort. So fertility in men after a spinal cord injury, there's a couple of things to consider. One is the ability to ejaculate. The second is semen quality and quantity. Infertility treatment in our world is huge. It's out there, and everything that they use for infertility in the able-bodied population, we have available to us in the disabled population also. We can use all of the fertility things that are available to the able-bodied population to help improve semen quality if it is altered, and to help with pregnancy. And the other thing is, I would want people to know that there are people out there to answer their questions, that they don't have to be out there wondering if they can get pregnant, or wondering if they can father a child, or wondering what they can do to make their erection better. There's people out there, we have answers and solutions.
The spinal cord injury does not dictate to you the nature of your intimacy. I think it's absolutely imperative for you not to throw that area, important domain, out of your life. There are many ways to be close. There are many ways to be intimate. There are many ways to communicate, and you need not give that up.
So it's so much things out there to be able to still have excitement and entertainment in the bedroom, instead of just like thinking negative. I'm in a wheelchair, so now it's gonna be boring. That's not the case. You can still have fun in the wheelchair just like you did prior to the wheelchair.
A big thing that I was like upset about, because I used to be quote unquote out there like a player, which is nothing to brag about. And the thing is, there's a whole lot of ways of doing what you gotta do. All this about communication with your partner.
If you got a spinal cord injury, some things are gonna work for you, some things aren't. You just have to find out what the one is that is gonna work for you and go with that.
I was single for a few years, and that in itself is scary, trying to take this confidence that you've bolstered in yourself and take it out to the dating world in your mid-30s with a disability for the first time. I found that people were very receptive to me, and that once you start speaking with somebody, that they start paying attention to your character and less to what you're sitting in or how you're getting from here to the door.
We are so much more close and in love than we were before this happened, which is funny because I didn't think that was possible. I felt very close and in love with him before, but this injury, even though it's a tragic and hard thing, has brought us together in a way that nothing else really can, because of how much you have to be there for each other, and just how much it changes your world, and that you have to see each other through it and guide each other through it. It's just brought it to a whole other level, which is it's actually really nice.
Voices of experience. They know. They've lived it. To watch and download the 10-part series, go to facingdisability.com/voices of experience videos.